Welcome. This is the second of the 3 video series on how to paint dwarfs. For this one, I'll focus on wood grain, non-metallic metal, and playing with value contrast. All these things put together ended up with what I believe is my best model yet. Make sure to subscribe to don't miss out the last part where I'll cover skin tones. To paint the wood, I'm using red-brown, a mustard-like yellow, and pale sand. Over the red base, I draw out lines which will join up to create wider planks. This is then followed with thin lines of pale sand within those planks, but only up to the halfway mark of the shield, so as to create volume. This is all blended together through a thin pass of sepia ink. Feel free to use any other thin paints with high pigmentation such as contrast paints for this. Just make sure to pull the paint from top to bottom to have more of it settle on the shadows. Moving on to the non-metallic metal, I begin by base coating everything with a mix of brown and dark green. You might ask, why dark green? Well, this is to create some subtle contrast with the red base I gave the wood. Small decisions like this one will give the overall piece a more chromatically pleasing result in the end. With the base color applied, I continue by adding blue-gray pale to the mix. With this color, I'll begin to mark out my first highlights, which will end up being everything but my darkest shadows and recesses. Here is how the sketch is looking so far. When painting on metallic metal, you have to be patient. The effect will take shape only when we get to the brighter highlights which border white. I add a bit more blue-gray pale to the mix and go over the same highlighted areas but covering less surface, letting some of the previous step visible. I won't be glazing or blending as I go brighter. I'll just take it slowly, adding paint bit by bit, so that each step is notable from one another but not creating a huge jump in color. For the chainmail, I unload most of the paint from my brush and lightly go over the rings, catching only the raised details. Once I incorporate my off-white color with the gray, does the effect begin to take shape. Again, working in a smaller area than before, letting all those steps show. I'd also like to note that I'm highlighting with pastel green. I chose this color to build up the subtle green hint of the armor, enhancing that contrast with the shield as well as with the reddish leather and skin I'll paint later. Once we reach the brighter colors, there is no need to build a transition slowly. After mixing the pastel green, I move on to pure pastel green and top it off with pale sand, as little dots and lines on the more exposed parts. Here is how the metallics are looking once done, and if you pause you can see the subtle green hint on them. To finish up, let's have a look at the clothing. For it, I'll once again be playing with the red and green value contrast. After building a solid coat of green, I mixed red into it alongside a good amount of water. This is applied as a wash all over the clothing to create shadows, which while not much darker will still stand out due to the red and green being opposite colors. After the wash dries up, I'll build up the highlights on the raised folds by incorporating a richer green to my base color. I avoid my shadows completely and work moving my brush in the same direction always, adding more and more green till I achieve a desired color. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe to don't miss out my next video and feel free to suggest what I should paint next.